Elise had always dreamed of a better life, one filled with love and laughter. Growing up in a small village, she imagined a world where happiness was just around the corner. When the opportunity arose to become a mail-order bride, she felt excitement flutter in her chest. Maybe this was her chance to escape her ordinary life and find joy with a loving husband. However, reality hit hard as soon as she arrived at her new home. Elise's husband was far from the kind-hearted man she had hoped for. Instead of warmth and kindness, she faced cruelty and harsh words that cut deeper than any physical blow. The once bright dreams of a loving family dimmed quickly. She felt trapped in a life that was meant to be filled with hope. Despite the darkness closing in around her, Elise found solace in her pregnancy. Carrying her baby brought her moments of joy and anticipation, filling her heart with love even before the child arrived. She often daydreamed about holding her little girl for the first time, imagining how beautiful their life could be if only she could escape her husband's grasp. When their daughter was finally born, Elise held the tiny bundle close to her heart, feeling an overwhelming sense of protection wash over her. This little girl represented everything good in the world, a fresh start amid chaos. However, joy quickly turned to fear as Elise's husband revealed his true nature once again. His anger erupted when he saw the baby, making threats that sent chills down Elise's spine. The day came when the tension reached its peak. After another fight that left Elise shaken and beaten, she realized that staying would only bring more pain to both herself and her newborn daughter. With trembling hands, she made a courageous decision. She would leave and take her baby with her. As Elise trudged along the levee, barefoot and weary, each step felt heavy with uncertainty. She clutched her daughter tightly against her chest, determined to protect this precious life no matter what lay ahead. Little did she know that help was on the horizon, help that would change everything for them both. The day Elise had waited for finally arrived, filled with a mix of hope and fear. The air was thick with tension as she felt the first pangs of labor. She remembered her mother's comforting words about the miracle of childbirth. But all she could think about was the unforgiving world outside her small room. Alone, without anyone to help or encourage her. She faced the daunting reality of bringing a new life into such a troubled situation. As the contractions intensified, Elise gripped the edge of the bed, bracing herself against the waves of pain that swept over her. Each surge felt like an avalanche crashing down on her. Yet within each wave, there was a glimmer of anticipation. She could hardly fathom what it would mean to hold her child in her arms. Yet fear loomed large. Would this baby be a source of joy or even more suffering in her life? Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the moment came. Elise pushed with all her strength, tears streaming down her face as she fought against exhaustion. Then, amid cries and gasps, she heard it, the soft wail of her newborn daughter. Time seemed to stand still as she cradled the tiny being against her chest. In that instant, everything changed. Elise marveled at how perfect this little girl was, with tiny fingers gripping hers tightly and eyes that sparkled with wonder. She named her Clara after the word clear, hoping for clarity and light in their uncertain future. As she looked down at Clara's peaceful face, Elise's heart swelled with love and fierce protectiveness. This delicate creature represented a chance for happiness, a new beginning amidst chaos. But just as quickly as joy flooded in, fear gripped Elise's heart again. She recalled the violent outbursts of her husband and wondered if this innocent child would ever know safety under his roof. The thought sent chills through her body. In those precious early moments together, Elise resolved that no matter what challenges lay ahead, she would do everything in her power to shield Clara from harm. As they lay together in that small room, mother and daughter, the bonds of love began to form stronger than any fear she had known before. The days following Clara's birth were filled with a fragile peace, but it was a peace that hung by a thread. Elise focused on caring for her newborn, enveloping her in love and warmth, yet the shadows of her husband's anger loomed ever closer. She could feel the tension building in their small home, a storm brewing just out of sight. One evening, Elise sensed that something was off. Her husband's footsteps echoed ominously as he returned home later than usual. The door swung open with a creak that sent shivers down her spine. She cradled Clara close to her chest, heart pounding as she tried to calm herself. What would his mood be tonight? Would he be angry or indifferent? As he entered the room, Elise watched him closely. His eyes were darkened with rage, and she knew instantly that he had been drinking. The moment he laid eyes on Clara, a flicker of something unsettling crossed his face, a mix of resentment and disdain. "What have you done to my house?" he barked, pointing at the scattered belongings and the laundry she hadn't finished. Elise flinched at his harshness, but she mustered every ounce of strength to defend herself. "I was busy with the baby," she replied softly, hoping her gentle voice might soothe him. But it only seemed to ignite his fury. With a sudden movement, he lunged forward, grabbing her by the arm and shaking her roughly. "You are worthless. I should have never brought you here." The words stabbed deep into Elise's heart, but it was the wild look in his eyes that truly terrified her. In that moment of desperation and fear for both herself and Clara, something inside Elise snapped. She realized that staying would mean doom for them both. It was now or never. Summoning every ounce of courage within her, she pulled away from his grip and hurried toward the door. "Where do you think you're going?" he shouted after her as she raced outside into the cool night air. Clutching Clara tightly against her chest, Elise felt an overwhelming urge to flee, to escape this life of torment before it consumed them both forever. As she stepped into the darkness of the night, determination surged within her. They would find safety together or die trying. With each step along the levee, Elise whispered promises of protection to Clara as hope glimmered faintly ahead on their uncertain path. The night air was cool against Elise's skin as she hurried along the levee, each step fully invested in the safety of Clara cradled against her chest. The world around her felt vast and shadowy, each rustling leaf or distant sound amplifying her fear. She could hear the gentle lapping of the water against the banks, but that soothing noise was drowned out by the pounding of her own heart. Elise's feet seemed to ache with every pounding step on the hard earth, raw and blistered from running barefoot. She focused on breathing steadily, deeper breaths to steady herself despite the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside her. The weight of her daughter felt both comforting and heavy, a reminder of what she was fighting for amid the chaos. Clara's tiny fists occasionally grasped the fabric of Elise's dress, anchoring her mother to a sense of purpose. As she walked, memories of her husband's harsh words echoed in her mind, each one cutting like a knife. "You were worthless," he had spat. The thought fueled her determination to find refuge from his cruelty. She pushed herself harder, refusing to let despair take hold. "We will be safe," she whispered to Clara, who slept peacefully in her arms, unaware of the danger they had just escaped. But it wasn't just physical obstacles that Elise faced. Emotions swirled like a turbulent river inside her. Each time she stumbled over uneven ground or felt fatigue creeping into her limbs, doubt threatened to worm its way into her thoughts. What if they never found safety? What if they were always running? Yet, every time she looked down at Clara's cherubic face, hope ignited anew within her. With a renewed sense of strength, Elise quickened her pace. The moonlight cast an ethereal glow on the path ahead, illuminating potential routes toward freedom. As she traversed the levee's edge, she pictured their future, one where Clara could grow up free from fear and violence. Suddenly, she heard footsteps behind her, a sound that struck ice in her veins. Was it him? Panic surged through Elise as she turned to look over her shoulder, but there was no sign of pursuit. Breathing heavily, she reminded herself that she was strong and fierce for Clara's sake. "We will keep moving," she promised softly as they continued their journey into an uncertain yet hopeful dawn ahead. As Elise trudged along the levee, her heart pounding with fear and determination, a figure appeared in the distance. Josiah Biloxi, a seasoned river pilot known throughout the region for his kindness, was navigating his boat down the river when he caught sight of her. The moonlight glinted off the water as he steered closer, his instincts guiding him towards the distressed woman and her tiny bundle. Josiah was a sturdy man with deep-set eyes that seemed to reflect the wisdom of the waters he had traversed for years. His reputation as a man of good character preceded him. Tales of his generous spirit and willingness to help those in need were well known among local townsfolk. As he approached, he felt an immediate tug at his heartstrings. Something about the sight of Elise, barefoot and weary, tugged at his empathy. "Miss," Josiah called out, slowing his boat to a gentle stop. "Are you all right? What brings you out here in the dead of night?" His voice radiated warmth and concern, cutting through the chill that enveloped Elise. Elise hesitated, feeling vulnerable under his gaze. Should she trust this stranger? But as she looked at him, his weathered face reflecting compassion, she sensed an opportunity to find safety for Clara. With a shaky breath, she stepped forward and whispered, "I need help, please." The desperation in her voice was palpable. Josiah's heart swelled with determination. He quickly motioned for her to come closer, extending a hand to help her aboard. "You and your baby are safe now," he assured her. "Let me take you south where you'll find shelter." As Elise clutched Clara tightly against her chest and stepped onto the boat, a wave of relief washed over her. The boat rocked gently as Josiah expertly maneuvered it away from the shore. As they glided down the river, Elise felt the weight of her fears slowly lifting. Josiah's calming presence surrounded them like a protective cocoon, and she dared to hope that perhaps this journey could lead to a brighter future for Clara. With every turn of the riverbend, Elise glanced back at the life she was leaving behind. It felt both terrifying and liberating. She knew they were not yet out of danger, but with Josiah by their side, she finally believed that maybe, just maybe, they could escape the darkness that had shadowed them for so long. As Josiah piloted the boat down the moonlit river, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being compelled by something greater than mere kindness. He glanced at Elise, her face etched with worry but softening as she held Clara close. The sight of them stirred a fierce protective instinct deep within him, and he made a quiet decision: he would risk everything to help them. The river sprawled before him, both beautiful and treacherous. He had crossed these waters countless times before, but tonight felt different. The currents whispered secrets of danger and uncertainty, and a sense of foreboding crept into his heart. He knew there were risks involved in harboring a fugitive. What if her husband came searching for them? Josiah's own livelihood depended on his reputation as an honest pilot, yet the thought of leaving Elise and Clara to face their troubles alone was unbearable. "Where are we headed?" Elise asked softly, breaking into his thoughts. Her voice trembled slightly, revealing her lingering fear. South, Josiah replied firmly, trying to instill confidence in her. There's a settlement where you can find help. I know people there who will look after you. Elise nodded, her eyes flickering with gratitude, and for a brief moment, Josiah felt empowered by her trust in him. But the heaviness of responsibility loomed over him like storm clouds gathering on the horizon. If rumors of his actions reached the wrong ears, it could cost him dearly, perhaps even his livelihood. As they navigated through dark waters, Josiah kept glancing back at the shore where Elise had escaped. The chaos she left behind still lingered like a fog in the night air. He couldn't bear the thought of what might happen if her husband discovered their trail. But something within him urged him onward. He felt that by helping Elise and Clara, he was not only defending them but also reclaiming his own sense of purpose. With each gentle ripple they passed over, Josiah reassured himself that acts of kindness were worth any danger that lay ahead. This journey was more than just protecting two lives, it was about standing against cruelty and injustice that too often went unchecked. As they drifted further from the past, a newfound determination surged through Josiah's veins. Whatever challenges awaited them downriver, he resolved to face them head-on, for Elise and Clara were no longer simply strangers, they were now part of a mission he couldn't abandon. As Josiah steered the boat down the winding river, the calm of the water belied the tension in the air. The moonlight cast silvery paths on the surface, but Elise's heart raced with anxiety, sensing shadows lurking just beyond their view. She cradled Clara close, praying every ripple wouldn't betray their escape. The further they ventured from home, the more vulnerable they felt. Thick underbrush lined the riverbanks, and low-hanging branches threatened to snag them as they glided past. Josiah maneuvered skillfully, his eyes scanning for obstacles, but Elise couldn't shake off the feeling of peril wrapping around them like a shroud. What if her husband followed their trail? Each rustle of leaves made her stomach churn with fear. Keep low, Josiah whispered as they passed under a particularly sprawling willow tree. The branches draped overhead like a protective canopy, momentarily easing Elise's anxiety. She looked at him with gratitude, appreciating how he treated them as more than just passengers. They were his responsibility now. However, danger was not solely from the trees or unseen wildlife, it was also from the likelihood of being pursued. As Josiah guided the boat with practiced ease, Elise felt frustration rise within her. Wouldn't her husband care enough to search for her? Did he really believe she was just escape fodder? The anger toward him fueled her determination to protect Clara. Just then, a loud thump echoed from upstream, a warning of approaching danger. Josiah halted abruptly, listening intently as a distant motorboat rumbled across the water. Panic flickered in Elise's chest. Could it be him? Had he already enlisted help? Josiah, Elise's voice trembled as she fixed her eyes on his steady countenance. He met her gaze firmly and nodded, understanding without words that time was of the essence. Stay quiet, he instructed softly but firmly. They both strained to hear through the sounds of night. The indignant splashes of water against wood and the distant buzz of the motor threatened to shatter their fragile peace. Josiah's pulse quickened as he searched for an escape route while keeping an eye on the horizon ahead. They had no choice but to keep moving forward despite uncertainty pressing down like a heavy blanket. As they ducked beneath overhanging branches and skirted around sandbars, Elise shut her eyes for a moment, concentrating on Clara's rhythmic breathing against her chest. With each stroke of oars and beating heart, she vowed silently that they would find safety even if it meant navigating through stormy waters ahead. Desperation mixed with hope propelled them onward into uncharted territory where freedom lingered just out of reach. As dawn broke over the horizon, the river began to widen and the boat glided into a bustling delta settlement. Josiah expertly maneuvered the vessel to the dock where wooden shacks painted in bright colors stood alongside weathered fishing boats. The air was filled with the sounds of laughter, chatter, and the faint aroma of food being cooked. For the first time in days, Elise felt a flicker of hope spark within her. Elise stepped off the boat, still clutching Clara tightly against her chest as she took in the sights around her. The settlement was alive with energy, a stark contrast to the darkness from which they had just escaped. Josiah introduced her to a few friendly faces, a couple who ran a small general store and an older woman who looked like she could be anyone's grandmother. They all welcomed Elise and Clara with open arms. Come, come. You both look like you could use some warmth, the grandmotherly figure said, gently taking Clara from Elise's arms for a moment. The woman cooed at the baby, making silly faces that elicited tiny giggles from Clara. Elise watched with gratitude as her daughter smiled for the first time since they had fled. Feeling welcomed for the first time in what felt like forever, Elise couldn't help but feel overwhelmed by emotion. It was as though this community had sensed her struggles and offered solace simply by being kind. The couple from the store insisted on providing food and clothing for them. Seeing the weariness etched on Elise's face and sensing Josiah's protective nature. Stay as long as you need, they urged. We've got room here. Their warmth enveloped Elise like a soft blanket, reassuring her that maybe they could find refuge here. As they settled into a small room in one of the shops, Elise reflected on how far they had come. She felt safe surrounded by caring people who understood hardship but also valued community. It was a stark contrast to her previous life filled with fear and isolation. While Josiah discussed plans with the shop owners about how best to protect Elise and Clara, Elise cradled Clara in her arms and promised herself that she would do everything in her power to create a better life for them both. In this unexpected haven, amidst laughter and shared stories, Elise felt hope bloom anew. Perhaps family could be formed not just by blood but also through kindness and support. With each passing moment, she began to believe that they just might have found a place where they truly belonged. In the days that followed their arrival in the Delta settlement, Elise and Clara quickly became woven into the fabric of the community. The warmth and care from the locals enveloped them like a soft quilt, easing the remnants of fear that still lingered in Elise's heart. It was here, among new friends, that she began to understand that family could be formed through love and support rather than just blood ties. Josiah often visited, checking in on them and sharing stories with the other settlers. He became a familiar face, a symbol of strength and protection for Elise as she adjusted to her new life. The children in the community adored Clara, often vying for the chance to hold her or play with her tiny fingers. Laughter echoed around their small home whenever neighbors dropped by to share food or offer assistance. Each evening, after settling Clara for the night, Elise found herself sitting on a porch surrounded by friendly faces. They exchanged tales of their struggles and triumphs over steaming cups of tea. One particular neighbor, a woman named Maribel, had a gentle spirit and an infectious laugh. She took Elise under her wing, teaching her how to cook local dishes while sharing nuggets of wisdom about motherhood. "You see, it's not just blood that makes us family," Maribel said one afternoon as they prepared a pot of gumbo. "It's how we care for each other in times of need." Elise nodded thoughtfully, realizing that this bond was unlike anything she had experienced before. Here, everyone looked out for one another, reinforcing the idea that love could flourish even amidst hardship. As time went on, Elise noticed how her heart began to heal. She found herself laughing more frequently and allowing hope to take root in her life again. Each smile exchanged, each shared meal and support offered, helped to dissolve the weight of her past experiences. Clara thrived in this nurturing environment. She giggled at the antics of other children and basked in the affection showered upon her by this newfound family. Elise watched with joy as Clara's laughter filled their little home, a sound she thought might forever be silenced by fear. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of pink and orange, Elise sat on the porch with Maribel and Josiah nearby. In that moment, surrounded by warmth and kindness, she felt a realization wash over her. They were indeed part of something beautiful, a community grounded in love and resilience. No longer defined by her past or the cruelty that had once threatened them, Elise finally embraced her new life where caring bonds created a true sense of belonging for both herself and Clara. As the weeks turned into months in the Delta settlement, Elise felt a profound transformation within herself. No longer was she the frightened woman who had fled her past under the cover of darkness. She had blossomed into a confident mother, grounded by the love she felt for Clara and supported by the community surrounding her. Josiah remained a steadfast presence in their lives. He frequently visited, offering not just companionship but a sense of security that came from knowing he would always be there to protect them. The bond between Josiah and Elise deepened, built on mutual respect and understanding. He often shared stories of his adventures on the river, which made Clara giggle with delight. Seeing their warmth and laughter, Elise realized she was slowly allowing herself to believe in new beginnings. One day, while watching Josiah play with Clara, Elise felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. These moments of joy were a stark contrast to the fear that once consumed her life. It dawned on her that love could flourish in unexpected places and family could be defined by more than just blood relations. It could be found in people who choose to care for one another, who lift each other up during trying times. Maribel's friendship continued to deepen as well, and the two women often worked side by side in the kitchen or tended to the garden. Maribel had become not only a friend but also a mentor, teaching Elise the ways of nurturing both plants and her daughter. The effect of their relationship was significant. Elise learned that nurturing did not solely pertain to physical needs, it was also about fostering emotional strength and resilience. One evening, as the sun dipped low over the horizon, casting golden rays across the water, Elise reflected on her journey. She sat on the porch with Clara nestled against her side, listening to Josiah and Maribel animatedly chatting nearby. The sounds of laughter filled the air, and for the first time in a long while, Elise felt completely at peace. "I'm grateful for you all," she murmured softly, aware that she had forged bonds that would last a lifetime. In that moment, she not only embraced her new life, but also recognized her strength. She had moved from survival to thriving, no longer defined by her traumatic past, but instead by the love and community that surrounded her. Elise smiled as she watched Clara laughing with Josiah, It was a sound that filled her heart with hope. Together they had built a new family, one where compassion and kindness reigned supreme. Elise knew they were safe here, not just from danger but fortified by the bonds they had created. They had finally found their home.